Welcome back. Well, we had an early start this morning, and the reason for that is the running of the autumn 2023 Auckland HOG Chapter Hard Arse ride. Now this ride's led by Dino, and we've been looking forward to it for a while. This is the second Hard Arse ride I've been fortunate enough to run on. In the interim time, there's been a few cancellations with weather, COVID, lockdowns, all of that kind of thing conspired. So the last time I ran one of these rides, participated in one of these rides, was 2020. So certainly waiting a while. There was one that got off the ground last year, but it was run on the very day before we headed to the South Island. So I thought I probably don't need to do that. I'll just make sure everything runs in order for the bike on the big ride through the South Island, and that's what it did. Anyway, now got an opportunity to run the Hard Arse ride, and I'm in fact going to be the tail end Charlie on this run. And in that pursuit, I'm going to be helped out by Greg. Just pull up alongside me here. He's going to be running with me. Greg usually runs the Hard Arse rides, or has done for the last few years. And Dino's has stepped up to take a bit of the load off Greg's shoulders. This is rerunning of a ride that Greg actually put through in November 2020, I think it was. With a few little modifications along the way, not exactly sure. I was on the ride, but I can't remember exactly where we went to that time. But all I can tell you is I'm looking forward to this very much indeed. So we're underway. There's 10 bikes on the ride today, which is probably about an average number for a ultra long distance ride like this. And we got one pillion, so there's 11 riders all up. The purpose of the Hard Arse ride is to run through a 700 kilometre minimum ride from start to finish with the group within a set period of time, usually within the daylight hours. And this is a southern route. Before I joined the club, there were some northern rides that went through, but since I've started, there haven't been any northern rides run, and a lot of that's due to the roads that have been compromised a little bit up north. Some of them are just flat out closed, and it means for some difficulties in finding a route that you can put together a 700 kilometre ride that can be run in one go during daylight hours without having a whole lot of, well, here we are going back down the very same road we travelled on before. So there are a few complications around that, but I'm sure we will get to the bottom of it and put together a northern ride sometime in the next year or so. Now this video is skipping through it pretty fast. We left Auckland, we moved into the Waikato, we stopped at Parongia, and now we're onwards on Puehipi Road, which is going to lead us through into Taupo, where we're going to be stopping for making a fuel stop, and we're going to be taking a little bit of a lunch break there. It'll be an early lunch. I think when we get to Taupo, it's going to be around 11 o'clock or so. Coming over the top of this rise, I do remember that there was a bit of a roadkill situation. It was looks like a family got wiped out as we came over the hill. And Greg had to signal everywhere, so I had to cross the centre line to avoid running through much of whatever was left of, I think it was a family of possums on the road. Anyway, enough of that. We eventually got to Taupo. We stopped at the Z service station at Tauhara. We had a break here, some food, nice stop, fuel up, and now we're heading the road again. This time we're heading from out of the Taupo district, heading towards Bay of Plenty. We'll be cutting through heading up towards Whakatane and Kaurau, and cutting through the Urewera forest, which is some beautiful scenic stuff there. Unfortunately, I can't share any of it because not long after this particular filming was done, a bug chose to end his life right there on my lens. So there was a nice bug smear over some pretty picturesque riding through the Ureweras, which was a bit of a shame. So we're not going to see any of that. We will pick it up though from this quite beautiful lake, a dam that we did stop at which point I realised the issue with my camera at Lake Matahina, and we're back in business with the filming. So from here we carried on. From this point we are heading up towards the lakes. We're going to kind of make our way towards Rotorua, and we're heading along Galatea Road. We hadn't long been underway here when one of the reasons for and the benefit of having a tail end Charlie operation working came to fruition, because one of our riders, Andy front, had a small issue soon after we just left off from the dam. So we pull over the side. We could see him slowing right down, so we slowed with him. We don't leave anybody to try and sort out issues by themselves, especially not in the ultra long distance ride. That's not a pleasant feeling to be stranded in the middle of nowhere. As luck would have it, this particular issue wasn't a mechanical issue. In fact, none of the bikes have mechanical issues during the ride, which is not unexpected. None of the bikes missed a beat. This was a gear issue, and he had just forgotten to latch his helmet strap, so we let him get his gloves off and do that thing up, and then we got cracking pretty quickly because it was a pretty well paced ride. And if we're stopped for a couple of minutes and the bikes are all heading off at of course observing the speed limits, we're going to very soon be a long way behind. So there was some pretty quick riding required to catch them up, and that's what we did. And one of the things that did give me a little bit of a startle moment along here, I think coming up soon, we're still on Galatea Road, and you'll see it I think in the next section. There is in fact a horse or a pony that's untethered right by the side of the road here, and I noticed this creature and thought, well, you know, these guys can freak out. There he is right there with vehicles. He didn't seem too disturbed about the motorbikes passing by, but you certainly don't want to be in the way when a horse or a cattle of any kind, big creature, steps out on the road. It's not going to end well for either of you. Anyway, we got to some more picturesque stuff. We caught up with the group. This is heading up State Highway 30 through Rotorua, heading up towards the lakes. And this is a really picturesque road. It's almost right up there with, I think it was Waipapa Road. That was just fantastic alongside a lake edge earlier on in the ride. One of the things I was looking forward to on our passage along State Highway 30 between the lakes was coming across a stretch of road called, or known as, Hongi's Track, and this was named after a Maori chief, Hongi Hika, from the Ngāpuhi tribe, who gained some, I guess, notoriety for hauling his canoes between the lakes through a forest track and catching an enemy tribe unawares, because they didn't believe that he'd be able to get war canoes through there. So quite a endeavour, quite a feat. This was in the early 1800s, as I understand. Anyway, it's a beautiful glade to travel through. It has a feature tree called the wishing tree halfway along here. Kind of a, I guess, a Instagram spot, but it's been there for a very long time, and there's a few legends associated with what exactly the wishing tree is all about. I'll leave you to look that up on the net. You can find out and believe which tale you prefer to believe. And soon after we came out of this, headed along the, before we came to the northern edge of Lake Rotorua, and head up the Magarewa Gorge. There was Dino very kindly stopped at a gas station so we could fuel up, those who felt the need. Turns out I was the only one, but then I had felt no shame about it because I had a fairly tense time riding through the gorge just the week before, where I was empty when we started the gorge and had to really nurse the bike all the way through. So I was pretty happy to have a full tank and be able to really enjoy the gorge for how it should be, because it's a great piece of riding through here, very enjoyable. State Highway 36, this takes us up from the northern end of Lake Rotorua through to Tauranga, and it's a beautiful ride. Be equally enjoyable in a car, but well, not quite. It's always better on a bike, but it's a very lovely ride, that's for sure. Do recommend it. Now at this stage we're making really good time with the ride. It's right on to schedule as per Dino's plans, so everything's going real good. We came into Tauranga and stopped for just long enough to fuel up the bikes and grab an ice cream or a coffee, those that felt like it, toilet break of course, and get ready for the final push for, well, the end of the ride from here. And the ride is planned to end in Mercer, a place called the Muddy Waters Irish Bar, and by the time we get there we will have travelled 700k from the starting point at BP at the Rosehill Service Centre on State Highway 1. Anyway, this is our final fuel stop on the BP service station, and soon after this we're exiting Tauranga, heading north. We're going to be heading through Matamata, so first of all, to do that we have to go over the Kaimai Ranges, State Highway 29, and then we'll eventually switch to State Highway 24 leading us into Matamata, and afterwards State Highway 27 from Matamata heading north. So plenty of riding yet to happen, and the views just keep on changing all the time. We're kind of out of bush now and getting more into pastoral lands, livestock lands. Now this is us heading down the hills towards Highway 24 to lead us into Matamata, and at this point we're exiting Matamata on State Highway 27. There was a little bit of a hold up on these roads around here. There's long straight country roads, and we were just making our own pace. We'd lost visual contact with the main group, but we knew where we were going. We would certainly get a chance to regroup at Tahuna, which would be the place that we would expect to regroup with everybody, and that's exactly how it turned out. We came up the Morrinsville-Tahuna Road and we caught up with the rest of the group there. Hopefully they hadn't been waiting too long, probably no more than a minute or two I expect. Greg pulled in behind the group, I pull up alongside, out there in the middle of the road to give plenty of sight to Dino so he knows that we're all here, everybody's okay, and kind of a rolling start can recommence from here as we kick off the very last leg from this point. So from here the Morrinsville-Tahuna Road is going to take us through to the Waikato Expressway, and from the expressway we're just travelling north only a very short way to get to Mercer, and that's going to be the right end where we'll all get off the bikes, have a stretch and a little bit of refreshments before heading off and ticking the job off as done. It was a most enjoyable day's riding in the saddle, and can't wait to do the next one. I think Greg's got one planned for later in the year. Dino as well has got one cooking, and who knows, maybe there'll be a northern ride to look forward to. You never know your luck in the big city. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this look at a Hard Arse ride from the HOG Auckland Chapter. Take care out there, ride safe, have fun. See you next week.